Welcome. I'm Bruce Munro, and with me is International Relations Specialist Professor Robert Patman, and this is Global Insight. North Korea and South Korea are still technically at war. For more than 6 decades, there has been a dangerous stalemate on the Korean Peninsula. Welcome, Robert.
Morning, Bruce.
By the time this goes to air, you'll be in Korea, taking part in what's called Track 2 informal diplomacy efforts. Can you tell us what is the state of play on the Korean Peninsula?
Well, despite a lot of summitry recently between Mr. Trump and Kim Jong-un, there's not too much substantive movement forward. Although I noticed that Kim Jong-un has invited Mr. Trump for yet another negotiating session, this time in Pyongyang, and Mr. Trump didn't commit himself in response but said he thought it was highly likely the two of them, that's Kim Jong-un and himself, would meet before the end of the year. So actually, it seems to me there's not too much to report in terms of substantive movement on denuclearization of North Korea. It's interesting that recently North Korea has unleashed some short missile tests, which I think is a bit of a nudge into American ribs, that they'd like some sort of offer to unlock what they see as the negotiating logjam.
As you said, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are talking about talking again.
Yeah.
What is it that both of them is trying to get out of this, and will it lead to peace?
Well, it's always been a bit of a dilemma from the outset, because if there was an easy way of denuclearizing North Korea, it would surely have been done before. And Mr. Trump believes in the art of the deal, particularly personalized diplomacy. He believed that by meeting Kim Jong-un and beginning a dialogue, he could nudge the North Korean dictator towards giving up its best asset, which is his nuclear weapons. And certainly the atmosphere has improved between the two countries. For his part, Kim Jong-un wants the United States to relax international sanctions. America, there's both individual sanctions for the United States, but also UN-supported sanctions, and he would like sanctions relief because clearly that has an impact on the North Korean economy and by implication on the legitimacy of his regime.
What role do Japan and China play in all of this?
Yes, so that's the regional dynamics at the moment are not particularly good, and what I mean by that is that first of all, the relationship between the United States and China has deteriorated, and China is a key player in the North Korean situation. China, like the United States, wants North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons. But unlike the United States, it disagrees on the means. Now, the trade war that's broken out has done nothing, I think, to incentivize more Chinese pressure on Kim Jong-un to respond to Mr. Trump's negotiating pleas to move forward. So that's one aspect, but there's also another disquieting aspect, and that is the deteriorating relationship between South Korea and Japan. And that's a disquieting aspect because here are two liberal democracies in the region, which is so vital, not just to the Asia Pacific, but to the rest of the world. You know, this is some of the countries involved, like China and Japan, they are driving some of the high-tech industries that we all depend on. And recently, the relationship between Japan and China took a sharp turn for the worse. In October last year, the South Korean Supreme Court ruled that citizens affected by the Japanese occupation of Korea in the period between 1910 and 1945, some of them still alive, they were effectively used as work slaves during that period, some of them. They can now individually seek redress from the Japanese government. And that outraged the Japanese government because they believed the issue had been settled under the 1965 Basic Treaty. And Japan has shown its displeasure by restricting materials which are essential for the production of superconductors and screens that we use in our information communications devices. So that is beginning to have a real impact on companies like Samsung. And this is a worrying situation. And hopefully the relationship between Japan and South Korea can be brought onto a more positive level. But given the seriousness of the nuclear proliferation on the Korean Peninsula, it's a shame that the two liberal democracies in the region are not seeing eye to eye and are actually using China to score points against each other. South Korea, which has a very good relationship with China, recently hinted that it was leaning or tilting towards China. And Japan, of course, has an uneasy relationship with China for historical reasons, just like for historical reasons, South Korea has an uneasy relationship with Japan.
Do you think that Kim Jong-un would consider a China-style future for North Korea, loosening the grip, allowing consumerism but still keeping a tight control on other freedoms?
It's difficult to see that at the moment, Bruce. Kim Jong-un doesn't play by the rule book, and I think he likes to play powers off against each other. China has been almost as frustrated as the Americans and other outside players have by Kim Jong-un. This is the one, probably, one of the most repressive dictatorships in the world. It's built around a personality cult, and Kim Jong-un doesn't hesitate to kill members of his own family if they're perceived to cross him. So it doesn't play by the sort of conventions and rules that even some authoritarian regimes acknowledge. The other thing is, I can't help feeling that Kim Jong-un, he's trying to pull off the impossible. He's trying to maintain this very tight control, but provide the citizens of North Korea with all the material goodies that the rest of the world enjoys. And I'm not sure that can be achieved. But if there's a choice, I think he'll choose to keep his regime firmly in place. It's difficult to see how Kim Jong-un will go down the Chinese route. He would probably fear that if he began to emulate some of the Chinese reforms, particularly opening up to the global economy, it could have implications for his own power base. And he may, in a sense, perceive that his regime is becoming dangerously dependent on China.
Thank you for your insights, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Catch us next time on Global Insight. Annyeonghi, Gaseo.